This gentleman is asking a legitimate question about the flags being lowered to half staff in the wake of the death of a former president. This person, for those of you that don't know, the flags are to be lowered at half staff for 30 days following the death of a former president. This person, Scott, says, why 30 days? Who and why determined it to be 30 days? I like Carter, a stand-up guy in every aspect. He's just asking, and because some people just don't know why 30 days. It's a legitimate question. Why are U.S. flags being flown at half-staff on Inauguration Day? President-elect Donald Trump has expressed frustration that flags will be flying at half-staff when he takes office later this month. In an action put in place by President Joe Biden to honor the late President Jimmy Carter, who died Sunday at 100, it's not a timeline that Trump can do anything about until after he takes office. Here's what to know about why flags are lowered when a president dies, who can issue that order, and how long the process lasts. Why are flags being flown at half-staff? On Sunday, Biden ordered U.S. flags to be flown at half-staff in honor of the late former president. It's an honor that indicates that the country or state is in mourning. The U.S. Flag Code lays out parameters for lowering the U.S. flag to half-staff, including a 30-day period for current or former presidents to cover flags at federal government buildings and their grounds, as well as at U.S. embassies and other facilities abroad, including military installations and vessels. Flags can be lowered to commemorate the death of other officials, including the Vice President, Supreme Court justices, and members of Congress, although those periods aren't as long. Flags can also be ordered lowered in other circumstances, including a national tragedy or on Memorial Day. Since U.S. Flag Code states that no flag should fly higher than the American flag on the same pole or nearby, state flags get lowered during those periods too. How long will flags be lowered? According to Biden's proclamation, U.S. flags will be lowered for 30 days from Carter's death until January 28th. With the inauguration on January 20th, that means that the flags will be at half-staff when Trump takes office and for the first week of his administration. Who decides when to lower flags? According to the U.S. General Services Administration, the president, a governor, and the mayor of the District of Columbia can order U.S. flags to be flown at half-staff. Here's where it talked about what Trump said. And then here it says, can Trump decide to raise the flags? Yes. U.S. Flag Code dictates that flags remain lowered for the 30-day period from the death of a former president, but that code isn't mandatory, so once he becomes president, Trump could technically override it. That's what happened in February of 1973, when then-President Richard Nixon opted to raise flags, which he had ordered lowered in mourning following the death of former President Lyndon Johnson, before the 30-day mark to honor the first American prisoners of war released from Vietnam. The hiatus only lasted a day, and flags went back to half-staff thereafter for 8 days. Flags had also been at half-staff when Nixon was sworn in for his second term in office in January of 1973, due to Nixon having ordered them lowered after the death of former President Harry S. Truman. Has Trump taken issue with lowering flags before? Yes. After the death of Arizona Republican Senator John McCain, with whom Trump had a fractious relationship, to say the least. In 2018, the Stars and Stripes were briefly lowered to half-staff over the weekend, but went up to full height the following Monday, while flags at the U.S. Capitol and elsewhere stayed at half-staff. Now, when did this all start? The act is in accordance with a proclamation issued by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1954, which states that when a president or former president dies, 30 days is the appropriate amount of time to fly the flag at half-staff at federal government buildings and their grounds, as well as U.S. embassies and other facilities abroad, including military installations and vessels. So, this has been part of the U.S. Flag Code for 7 decades. And now we get to see just how much of an asshole Trump really is. If he comes into office, when he gets sworn in, the flags will be at half-staff. When his hand is on the Bible, the flags will be at half-staff. How quickly they get raised after that, because they're supposed to stay at half-staff for another 8 days after that. If they get raised that day or the next day or any time before the 28th, that's a show that Donald Trump isn't happy about the flags being at half-staff, and he will raise them per his order. And that'll show just what a piece of shit he actually is. And if he does that, even if he doesn't do that, but if he does that, then it is my opinion that when he eventually passes, nobody should ever lower their flag to half-staff.